then I want to engage you in a discussion. And I want to engage you in a discussion because I am very concerned about what's happening within the Tibetan community. And I am principally here to talk to the younger members of the community, because the future really is in your hands. The community has reached certain levels, certainly in numbers, Toronto in particular. You now have a community that actually, by its size, has influence. And it's not being used. And it's not being used properly. The other thing that I will say, and I hope that I say this in a way that isn't misunderstood, it's not unusual, but I thought because of the cause that it wasn't going to happen quite so quickly in the Tibetan community. But there are divisions that are becoming a problem within the Tibetan community. Different groups with different ideas, with different objectives. And I believe that that's going to weaken greatly the effectiveness of the ability to achieve the kinds of things that have been achieved in the last 30 years, 25 anyway. Let me, for the sake of the young people, tell you why I'm here. I admire, greatly respect His Holiness The Dalai, and I've met so many wonderful Tibetans, but I've met so many wonderful people from so many different areas. But I had an incredible experience that some of you have heard, but likely the young ones haven't, and I think it's worth repeating. In 1990, I'm a trekker. I like to go up and down mountains. I've done the Himalayas 3 times. I've done the Andes and Patagonia. I've done the Alps. And I've hiked in New Zealand and Australia, practically all over the world. I'm crazy. I'd rather sleep on a sheet with with rocks underneath than on a bed many times. And after the trek to the Everest Base Camp in Tibet, we had a 2-week tour of Tibet. And during that time after the trek, because we saw very few people in the trek, we came across a lot of Tibetans, and we came across particularly monks in different monasteries. And we started our trek in the Tingri Valley, went up to the base camp, and then came back down, and we did a number of cities, Shigatse, Shiantse. But and we had certainly come across some people who told us in very emotional terms the situation that was happening in Tibet. And this is 1990, and things really were bad at that time. And when we got to Lhasa, it really became very apparent because it was a city under the rule of the Chinese Liberation Army. And the oppressiveness was omnipresent. It was there all the time. And the thing that I want to tell you about, I'm sure that Peggy's heard this before, but the thing I want to tell you about is what happened to me in the Joka. I was there with a group of, actually we were all Americans, I was only Canadian, I was there, and with this other lady who was part of the group, and we were looking at some stuff and all, and I was there just, standing, and somebody put something in my hand, a piece of paper, as I looked at it, and before I could take it, the lady who was part of the group took it and started to read, and I am looking, and there's a young man, maybe your ages, I would say no more than, somewhere in the give or take, sometimes difficult to judge exactly. And he left me, he was sort of hunkering down like an animal, and went to a corner, and you could see the fear in his eyes. And the woman who was with me was crying when she was reading this piece of paper. And it's not so much the content of that piece of paper. It's now hanging, by the way, at the Tibet Canadian Cultural Center, because I had it framed and donated it to them. And basically what it said, please help us tell the world the courage of this young man. If he had been caught, he'd be dead. He was prepared to give up his life. So when I came, I contacted a couple of Tibetans just to see what the heck's, and they said, you must not take pictures of the Dalai Lama, they'll put you in jail. But when you tell me you must not do it, I do it all the time. So I had a camera, the old cameras, we had a camera case, and in the camera case I had about 20 pictures of Dalai Lama. And I said, I have to send this young man a message. So I walked slowly towards him. You know what he was, I mean, this man was, if I said, help, he was dead. So you could see that. Halfway through, I took the picture, one of the pictures out of my case, I put it in my hands and I went like this, and I walked up towards him like this. When he saw the picture, it's difficult not to be emotional, because it was really one of the life-changing moments of my life. His face lit up. He recognized that some hand guided him to the right person to deliver this message. Marked to him, I gave him the picture, he took it, put it aside, and he walked away. But in the meantime, I looked at him without saying a word, and then I said to him, as long as I live, I'll carry the message. That's why I'm involved with this movement. People say, you do it for the Dalai Lama, you do it for your Tibetan friends. I do it for that young man because I promised him that for as long as I live, I would carry the message. And thank God, it's resulted in me helping to achieve certain things. There was Riggs and Dolkar, who knows her? You know Riggs? She's the one who got me involved. That was back in 1990. You weren't even born then.
I was.
just kidding. And we used to say every time the Tibetan community meets, it meets in a phone booth. There was never more than 5, 6, 3 people. That was the community. There was maybe 100 people in Toronto at the time. And it became a passion that expanded, as you probably know, worldwide, because I was one of the people who was the first conference, the World Parliamentarians for Tibet, was in 1992 in Delhi, and I attended that conference. And I've attended every single one of them, including the one that happened, that Peggy knows, and participated greatly in 2012 in Ottawa, which I chaired, which I actually stayed in the Senate for another year and a half, because my friends at Dharamsala convinced me because I actually went to tell them there was something, the elections were happening, if you remember, and I was there as an election observer. And I told them that when I went back that summer, I was going to leave. And they said, no, you can't leave, you got to have this conference. So that's true, by the way. I stayed in the Senate an extra year and a half to have a conference. So, I want you to understand that, because I think it tells you where I'm coming from, right? The solution to the Tibetan problem is really very easy if you believe in His Holiness the Middle Way. That's the only solution that exists for the problem in Tibet. China has been so incredibly inflexible that it is picking little pieces from the Tibetan support groups across the world to a degree that it's weakening all of that. And at the same time, what I see within the community, and by the way, you can talk about this openly because I have no secrets. What I see in the community in Toronto, that you've got people now, you know, some want to go this way, some want to go that way. Get together, choose a path, and go. Because now nothing is really being achieved to the degree that it should be. The last thing that really happened of any value in this community was when His Holiness, in the Prime Minister's office, in my presence, just the three of us, asked the Prime Minister, we had prepared him for this, but he asked the Prime Minister to please support bringing another 1,000 people from India to Canada, particularly from the area that they're coming from because of the difficulties that exist in that area. And so that's one of the themes that I wanted to bring forth today for discussion. Let me just round this out and then we'll go to question, because I think that's where we'll get all of the benefits. I don't know what's being achieved around the world because I'm not as close as it is, but I do know that the kinds of good things that were happening 5-10 years ago in other countries in the world are not happening anymore. When His Holiness goes to visit some of the countries that used to welcome him, they don't stop him from going, but they no longer have the President or the Prime Minister meet with him. This is happening more regularly now. Where you used to have a presentation in some parliament, now they have it in some church hall. When I see this, I see the hand of the Chinese. Probably the best example is South Africa. Bishop Tutu has to be one of His Holiness's stronger supporters. And they've now denied him visa twice. Not once, twice. To the point where I think His Holiness withdrew his application the last time. He believed he wasn't going to get the visa. And it's the power that China has now got because of the money that it has. And there's a term that I use all the time, prostitution. Political prostitution, corporate prostitution, is the worst kind of prostitution. The men and women who sell themselves are much more honorable than the politicians and the business who sell themselves. They're much less honorable. I know this because we are having problem collecting money from companies now. We're having a problem collecting money from people generally. Well, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, it was not easy, but it was, we were at least talked to, and we, instead of getting a couple $1,000, we get $500. We're getting rejected pretty well all over the place. I don't know if you know CTC. Yeah. Well, you know I'm talking about all the kids, right? Well, I'm now the chairman of CTC. I'm the chairman because there's a serious problem. Now, the serious problem basically is it can't raise money. And so they've asked me, the chair who was there stepped down and done a great job for, very good long term, and rightly so. He said somebody else, and nobody else wanted the job. So I'll take it for a year and see if we can fix this. And we're having huge, huge problems attracting money for CTC. This is now the Canada Tibet Committee. It's the political arm of the community. So this is the challenge we face. And I think before we fix anything, we have to look at fixing the community. And it's not in bad situations. If the cracks start, if you don't fix them while they're small, then they become, unfixable. That's not an English word, is it? But we'll use it anyway. So I wanted to set the stage so that we can have a dialogue about how and what we do. And if you don't have any questions, I got lots of other things I can talk to you about. So I probably went over my 10 minutes as an introduction. And so now I start. What is it that you want to talk about? What do you want to hear from me? And how would you like to start a dialogue between you folks and myself, and hopefully Peggy will join us?
Definitely. I just want to remind everyone here that just because Senator and Peggy are sitting on the chair doesn't mean that we can't have frank discussion. This is just more about posture and knee problems.
I'll lie down. I'll lie down if you want.
We can have an eye-to-eye frank discussion. I think those are the ones that have the most interesting things come up. So anyone want to ask a question?
Let's start.
Yeah.